Okay, to create this beginner tote bag, I am going to cut my fabric. Since Joann's is no longer a business, I think it'll be easier to find these 1 yard packages of fabric. So this is what I'm going to use. As you can see, they're got some candy corns and some dots. So the candy corns is going to be my external fabric and the dots are going to be my internal fabric. These are 1 yard each, so I'm going to be able to make 2 tote bags. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 5 inches and the 5 inches and the length of fabric or the width of fabric with my ruler and my cutting mat and my rotary cutter. And I'm going to make those the straps for each tote bag. So I'm going to cut 5 inches from the dots. I'm going to cut 5 inches from the candy corn. And then so I'll make one with dot straps and one with candy corn straps. I think that would look really cute. And tote bags don't necessarily have to be of a certain size. You can make it any size you want with the fabric that you already have on hand. You could use 2 fat quarters if you want. 2 fat quarters for the outside, 2 fat quarters for the inside, the lining, and then you'll just have to come up with another fabric for the straps. You could probably do another fat quarter of, one of these fabrics or, a contrasting fabric, whatever you like. So we're going to open these up. Like I said, these are 1 yard. So I'm going to open it up. These are 100% cotton. I've had these for a while, so I don't exactly know where they came from. But Walmart has prepackaged 1 yard fabrics as well. So let's open it up completely. Okay. Here is the selvage. So we want to cut from the cut side, which would be this one. To make things a little easier, I think I'm going to do both of them at the same time. Actually, I'm not going to do that because since my cutting mat is so short, I'm going to fold this in half. And my ruler just happens to be 5 inches, so that's what I'm going to use for the straps. Now, technically, I'm only cutting 1 strap because the length of this fabric should be 42, 43 inches. So if I make 1 strap and cut it in half, I'll have 2 straps. So just make sure that your fabric is lined up properly. You want the selvage edge and the folded edge to meet, and you want it to lay flat so that your cut is straight. Make sure it's completely on the mat. If you don't cut on the mat, it will, 1, ruin your table and ruin your rotary blade. So we do not want that. So I'm going to cut it 5 inches, lining it up. Oops. I'm going to move it over just a little bit here. Hopefully y'all can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to cut 1. Oop. Is my thing on locked? It shouldn't be. Yep. See, my rotary cutter was locked, which you should always store your rotary cutter in the locked position. Okay. I think I need to change my rotary blade. So I'm just going to do little snips. There we go. So I cut out 1 strip from the candy corn. And then now I'm going to, now what I want to do, since I want to make 2 bags with the leftover, I'm going to make sure that my lines are all straight here. So I just want to cut the remaining fabric in half. So I'm going to fold it in half like that. Make sure everything is lined up. Make sure I get here. Okay, great. So I'm lining up my edges here. So I got selvage and fold up here. And then I got another fold on this side because I just cut it in half. So I'm going to now turn this leftover yard of fabric into roughly semi-fat quarters. It's not going to be a full fat quarter because since I took off the 5 inches, so it'll be less than a fat quarter. So that's okay. I'm just going to cut the fold as nice and even as possible. I'm cutting through all 4 layers of the fabric. So there we go. Okay, so now I have 2 pieces that I can use. I'm going to put one of them away because I'm only going to make one tote bag on camera right now, but that could be for another one. Then now we also have, so now right now this is 1 piece of fabric. I still got the fold up here. So I'm going to actually do the same on this side here. I'm just going to cut the fold. Okay, there we go. Go in between the 2 layers of the fabric and cut it. So voila, I have now 2 pieces of fabric here. So one's going to be for my outer layer of the fabric, and I'll just put this one aside, and I'm going to do the same for this one, and I'll come back to you. Okay, so now that I have my lining fabric cut out, my outer fabric cut out, and for this one I'm going to use the straps are going to be the candy corn. Now we could just kind of prep it to sew it together. Okay, what I'm going to do is, this is not a directional fabric, so that makes it a little easier. Neither one of these are directional. So it kind of doesn't matter which would be your top, which would be your bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay one side down. We're going to put the other side on top, and they should be the exact same size because of the way we cut and fold. Okay, and then we're going to sew it. But first, before we do that, let's prep our straps. The straps are a little on the tricky side because we need to iron, we need to do some folds, and then we need to sew. It's probably better off if we sew these first and get those out of the way. So let's go to my ironing board for these. Okay, so now we're going to iron our straps. Now make sure your iron is hot. I have it on the cotton setting since I am using 100% cotton quilting fabric. And to make sure if your iron is hot, I always run it on my ironing board and then touch it gently, and oh, it is hot. Okay, so we are ready to iron our strap. Now remember, this is 5 inches wide by the width of the fabric, which should be roughly about 42 inches. That is what commonly the width of quilter's cotton is. So first, we're just going to iron it out a little bit. I'm going to lower just a little bit because it's very hot. Okay, so now that we have it flat, what we're going to do is we're going to fold it in half, wrong sides together, and we're going to make a crease right down the middle. And this is 100% cotton, so it can take the heat. Okay, I'm gonna go back to our starting point, and now what we're gonna do is we're going to open it up. So now we can clearly see our crease. You probably can't see it on the video, but when you do it at home, you will definitely be able to see that crease. So then what we're gonna do is we're going to fold down one side and fold down the other side. Fold it the raw edge to the crease that you just made. If you want, you could do it one at a time. We'll do it one at a time since this is a beginner friendly tutorial. Frustration. Now we want to meet the edge to that, and then now we're going to iron that down. Now the first one that you did is staying because that has been ironed. When you have both of those folded in, we're going to do it one more time, fold it into each other to make our strap. There we go. Okay. So now we have a nice tube that is ready to be sewn. What we can do is we could put some straight pins in there. Now when I pin my fabrics, I like to pin it this way. I like to have the pin going from the top into the fabric, because then when I sew, it's easier to remove. Now since this is well ironed, probably don't need as many, but we'll put some pins in here. Pins out are our friend. So you could put as many, little or as many as you want. In there. And then, like I said, we will be cutting this in half to make two straps, but we're not going to do that just yet. We're going to sew it down first because it's easier and faster to sew it all at once, and then we will cut it when we're done. Now I'm going to get my pieces of my bag, my outer and liner fabric, and quickly give those a nice little press because they do have creases in them from being folded and rolled up. And then we can pin how we're going to do it, but this is where you're going to make a decision. Do you want your tote bag to be narrow and long, or do you want it to be a little on the short side and wide? I personally think I'm going to have it on the short side and wide. So my selvages are here. My fold was here that I cut. So this is this is a cut edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this part open and I'm going to sew the shorter sides and the long bottom. And I'm going to sew all around. But first, I'm going to pin them together. So now this is prepped and ready to sew, but let me get also my lining done. Now since I made that one to go wide and short polka dots, and I'm going to put those together. See all these wrinkles that are in it? It's just be easier to iron it right sides together because that's how we're going to sew it. Let's give this one a quick iron. So now since I determined on my outer fabric that I was going to sew up the short sides and one long side and have it long, like wide and narrow, I have to do the same thing for the lining. So I will pin this one as well. Now with the lining, we do not want to sew the whole bottom. We need to have an opening in the lining so that we could, when we're done sewing, we could flip it right side out. So what I like to do to indicate where I'm going to leave the opening, I'd usually do double pins. I don't think we need too much, like 3 or 4 inches will be fine, and you could just eyeball it. Doesn't have to be precise. We're going to just do double. Okay, and then now we're ready to go to our sewing machine and start putting this together. Okay, now we have our sewing machine out. This is my daughter's machine. It is a Singer Simple. She calls her Opal, so we're going to be using Opal today to sew our bag. It is a great little machine. So first what we're going to do is we're going to start with our handles. Now I have one side that is opened and the other side is a fold. I always like to sew about 1/8 of an inch, something really close to the fold, and that's going to keep it all together. Okay. I am using a black thread since a lot of this fabric is dark. Okay, let's see if I can find my presser foot. Okay, and then we're just going to go. Okay, so we are finished doing one side. Okay, and go back to the top. And now we're going to do the other side, which is the fold side. We're just going to do a straight stitch, just going all the way down. And we're also going to do 1/8 of an inch. And I'm just using some regular Coats and Clark all-purpose cotton with the universal needle, and I am just doing a straight stitch on length 2. 2.5 is usually my go-to stitch length whenever I'm making pretty much anything, unless I have to do a basting stitch or something like that. But when I'm sewing things together, I usually do a 2 or 2.5 and just go right down the gap. Okay, so now our strap is finished. We're just going to put it aside until we sew up the body of our bag. So now this one, you don't have to do it in any particular order. You can do the lining first. You can do the outer bag first. That doesn't matter. Also, seam allowance doesn't necessarily matter at this point because we are not following any particular pattern. Our liner and our outer fabric are the same size. So just the main part, the important part is to be consistent. So if you're a beginner sewer, it probably would be best. This presser foot came with my sewing machine. I think it's a 3, it lines up with the 3/8 of an inch line here on my my plate here. So just for beginners, if you want, just line up your fabric with the edge of your presser foot and then just keep that consistent throughout your sewing, and you should be fine. Okay, because the key is to definitely to be consistent and make sure you do everything consistently. Okay, so now all we're going to do is just sew around. This is the liner, so the liner is going to be left open on the bottom, and when we get to that, I will show you what to do. Now you could finish your corners one of 2 ways. You could stitch down to you get to 3/8 of an inch from the corner, and then you keep your needle in your fabric and you pivot. Or you, if you're don't feel comfortable doing that, you could just sew right off the end. And I'm going to sew right off the end just because that's easier for beginners to do. Okay, lift up your presser foot. You could pull out some of the threads and then just go back, reposition it, make sure it lines up with the edge of your presser foot so we maintain the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then just continue going. Okay, now we have gotten to our double pins here, so that means we are heading towards the opening. So I'm just going to stitch it slowly. I'm going to take out one, do not go over them. Okay, just going to still do maybe just a few more stitches. Okay, and then important, you want to back stitch this, and by doing that on my machine, I just hold this down and then just go back and then go forward. Okay, I'm going to cut thread there, and then I'm going to start back up again right at where the other pins are. I'm going to remove those. Okay, going to stitch ahead a little bit and then back stitch. You want to make sure you backstitch at the opening, because when you're pulling your, I guess they call it like birthing, when you're birthing your bag and putting it right sides out, you want to make sure that you don't rip any stitches and make this hole bigger than it needs to be. So we're just reinforcing that opening because there will be some pressure on it. Okay. And now we're going to do the same with the, ow, stabbed myself. Now we're going to do the same thing with the outer part. But this time we're not going to leave an opening because there's no need to, since the liner is what we're going to have. We got to see, okay, so this, all right. So this is the part we did not pin. So this is our opening. So we're going to go down one side, go down the bottom completely, and then come right back up the other side. Okay, so now we have the outer fabric and our liner all sewn together. So now let's box the bottoms. Okay, let's just move this out of the way for a moment. Now, boxing the bottoms is not mandatory for a tote bag. You can just leave it like this, but then it'll be flat. So if you want it to be a little bit three-dimensional, I do recommend this step, and it's really not that hard. And it will make your, it'll just elevate your tote bag, I feel. So what we're going to do is we're going to take both of our lining and our outer fabric. We're going to lay them on top of each other. Okay. Okay, let's get them as, okay, they're not exactly the same size. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the top part lines up. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so now this is our top part. This is our bottom. This is the hole that we're going to turn it in. So you want to make sure that you box the bottoms. So we're going to turn this around. Okay, once again, now this is the top, this is the bottom. So what we're going to do is, and then you could determine how big you want the bottom to be. I'm thinking, maybe, now you have to do it as a square. So if you're going to do 2 inches, it has to be 2 inches by 2 inches. If you're going to do 3 inches, it's 3 inches by 3 inches. So, you know, and so on. But you don't necessarily want to make the box that big. So I'm thinking maybe we'll do 2 inches by 2 inches. Okay, so that would be one. No, that's too much. That'll be 2 inches by 2 inches. Let's do it on this side. I think this side is a little more easier to read on there. So we're gonna do, that's 1 and that's 2 and then that's 2 as well. I don't know, 2 looks kind of small. Maybe we'll do 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling 3 inches by 3 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this pencil. This is just a regular pencil because this is going to be on the inside. So once this is sewn together, no one's going to see this. So I got that one there. And then I'm going to do 3 by 3 on this one. Okay, and I'll put that there. And then we're just going to cut it out. Now I'm cutting them out at the same time so that we know that they will be matching. Now when you cut it out, do not go past this line. Okay, do not go past the line you drew because then you're going to be cutting into your bag. Okay, so you take that out. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Cutting exactly on that line. Okay. So now we boxed our bags. So now how are we going to put this together? We want to do this to both the lining and the thing. We're going to spread it out like this. And we're going to sew it together. Let's see if I can get it close to you guys. There we go. I think that's good. We want to line up our seams. Hopefully you can see that. We're going to take our bottom seam and our side seam and we're going to sandwich them together. Okay. And then we're going to put a pin in it. Okay. Multiple pins in it. And we're going to just sew, and then we will sew a straight line 3/8 of an inch. Now we're going to do it to all of them, and I'm going to speed that up. Okay, so I pinned all of our boxed corners. So now we're just going to sew a 3/8 of an inch on all of the corners. Okay, so now we have our liner and our outer fabric all sewn up. What we're going to do is we're going to take our outer fabric, put it right side out. Here you want to make sure that you sewed your box bottoms completely. Here they go. Where are they? They're kind of hard to see. This fabric is so busy. Okay, there we go. So we have our outer fabric right side out. And then we're going to do is we're going to have our liner inside out so that right sides are facing. Actually, what we need to do is we first need to get our handles, because we want the handles to be sandwiched in between our outer and our inner. Now at this point we still have it in one strip. What we can do is I'm going to cut off the little bit of the selvage because we kind of don't want that showing. Okay, so I just cut that little piece off, and then we'll just have them in half. Make sure they're flat. Make sure they're even and flat. And then we're just going to take our scissor and cut them in half, like that. Now one became two. So what we're going to do is we want to put them on our bag. Now you could kind of guesstimate on what you want to do. We could take our ruler. I'm thinking 6 inches would be enough. Or what we can do is we could put our side seams together to get the center of the bag. And then we're going to put a pin in that. Want to make sure that we have our center. Okay, so now when we pull out, the pin is indicating where the center of our bag is. So what we can do is we can do 3 inches on either side. So let's get this ruler so I can see the numbers. Okay, so I have the pin on 13. So we have 1, 2, 3. So we could take one of these and put it on the 16th. And then we're going to put a pin in it. Okay, then we want to make sure that it is flat and curves around. So now let's reposition. So if our pin is on 13 and, okay, let's see. Okay, our pin's on 13 and this is not on 16. Okay, I got it on the 16 now, and I just want to pin it to one layer. Okay, so then that's on 13, and then we're going to do, let's see, yeah, that's on 13, that's on 16. So then we're going to do this one on 10. The outer corner is going to be on the 10, and then we're going to pin it. Okay, now for the next one, it doesn't look like 6 inches. Well, it's 3 inches on each side. Okay, all right. So now, I don't know, that doesn't look like it's far apart enough. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it backwards. Instead of having the furthest corner on the 16th, we're going to put the inner corner on the 16th. So it's going to be between two. It's going to be between the 16th and the 17th because the 13th is in the middle. And then we're going to do the same thing with this one. let's see, we'll put the 10 there. So then it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this should be the 10 and 11. This between 17 and 16. And this will be between 9 and 10. Okay. So we have it 6 inches apart, but we have it 6 inches from the inner of our strap. And then the outer is 1 more inch. Now we have to make sure that our strap is laying flat, which it is. So that's great. Now we're going to do the same to the other side. Now this one, since we already did the math, we could just line up from where the other straps are. Make sure it's flat. And then we'll just do the same for these straps, making sure that they are the same. And then just putting them on that one layer. Here we go. Make sure it is flat, flat, flat. I guess for the tutorial, I should have done the polka dots as the straps, so that it would be a little more contrast. So sorry about that. I'm kind of new to recording tutorials. So we'll put that one there. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sew down these spots. We could take the middle one out. We don't need that anymore. Put our ruler to the side. Let's get our machine back. Okay, and now what we want to do is we want to do about, I would say, 1/4 of an inch. We don't want to do the 3/8 of an inch because that's our seam allowance, and we don't want these stitches to show. So we want to do it just a little smaller. And also we want to do it a few times. So I'm going to start right before the strap, go completely across the strap, a little on the other side of the strap. Then I'm going to go back, and then I'm going to go forward again. And then I will stop sewing and go straight to the other strap and do the same thing. We want to reinforce these straps a little bit just to make sure that it's sturdy. Because if you're going to use, especially this one, since this one's a Halloween theme, if you're going to use this for trick-or-treating, you know, the kids do get a lot of candy that they have to share with their mother that made their bag for them. So, you know, we need to make sure we have plenty of room and the bag doesn't break as we're in the middle of trick-or-treating, because that would not be fun. Lost candy is not good. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. Okay, and then we're going to go back. Then we're going to go ahead again. Okay, then we're going to lift up, get our needle out, take it off, and then we're going to go do the other strap, and we're going to do the same thing to all 4 straps. So now we have the straps secured on there. Now we're going to put the totes together, right sides together. So that means your liner will be inside out, and your regular bag would be right side out. Okay, then what we're going to do is we need to sew these together. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the side seams and we're going to match them together. And we're going to pin. Let's move the machine out of the way a little bit. And we're going to pin all around. Make sure your straps are inside. What we're going to do is I like to do the sides first. Let's get those together. And then we can work our way around the edge. Okay, like see here, I'm going to put the straps inside. And then we're just going to put a pin in every few inches. Okay, just putting a few more pins. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew around the edge, and this one we're gonna do at 3/8 of an inch. Let me just put one more right there to keep that together. Okay, and then we're just gonna go around it. You can, if you want, you could feel where the straps are. I did put a pin on where the straps are, and if you want, you could also, once again, go back and forth once or twice on the straps just to reinforce it one more time. And we're almost done with it, so that is very exciting. You could pretty much start anywhere you want. I like to start on a side seam or near a side seam, and then we're going to do just 3/8 of an inch once again. Now, because we had the hole on the bottom, we were able to sew completely around the bag because we're going to now pull it right side out from this hole. So let's do that. Okay. There we go. We want to poke out the holes from the boxing. And there we go, right there as well. Now what we need to do is we just need to sew up this little hole. Let's cut off some of this black thread that's peeking out. Okay, and the way you want to do that is you just want to fold it in itself a little bit. So you want to fold the two folds, like fold it a little bit so you don't have a raw edge. Okay. And then we're just gonna do a little stitch. I like to do about another 1/8 of an inch stitch on this, and then we'll be almost done. Let's cut off our threads. Okay, so then we sew that down a little bit there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to stuff this into the bag. Okay, and then we just need to give it a good press so that we have the lining fabric inside the bag and the outer fabric on the outside of the bag. Like I said, ironing is going to be your friend in this project and usually in all sewing projects. Let's get it all situated here. Okay, and let's get to ironing. Okay, so now we're going to iron our bag, our almost finished bag. What we want to do, okay, first we want to cut all of our strings. Let's get all those. Sometimes they come out to the right, the right side, the finished side of the project. So let's just cut those off. Put that aside. Okay, and then what we want to do is we kind of want to make sure that we iron this flat. We want to iron it kind of perfectly on the fold so that the lining is not showing from the front and the main fabric is not showing on the inside. So this part can be a little tricky. So you want to make sure your iron is hot. And you just want to go around it. Just make sure, because our final step is going to be doing a top stitch on this piece here. The iron away, and then we will top stitch all around our bag, and then we will be done. Okay, so now we are going to sew the edge. I like to sew on the outer part, and you can do also 3/8 of an inch, which would be lining up the fabric with your presser foot. Is my machine on? Let's see, there we go. It does help if you have your machine on before you start sewing. That's a pro tip. Make sure everything is flat. Okay, and then just make sure you pedal. Okay. Okay, and we are done. And there we go. We have our own little, nice little Halloween tote bag.